Hey everybody, I hope y'all are having a good night, good morning, whenever you're watching this. So I decided based off of my college experience, I wanted to do a tale as old as time. I wanted to compare Sam Houston with SFA because for a very long time, when it comes to athletics, SFA's student population hasn't necessarily understood what it meant when we wanted to build um, athletics into the student fees. It's not that they were going to be charged any more money, it's that they were, So that is one of the things I was looking at. So when it comes to the revenue, I found it very interesting that um, the revenue from Sam Houston is $20.6 million, which is really similar to um, SFA, but 50% of that, 10.29 million, is from student fees, as with SFA, none. Um, and that really has to do with the fact that they have not been able to get it passed through students to build that into the student fee, which is rather interesting. And so it's saying that institutional slash government support though for SFA is 17.1 million. As to SAM, it is 4.26 million. So this is where we see where Sam has that difference in student fees. This is where we see SFA trying to make up for the fact that they can't allocate student fees for the expense or the revenue of any kind. Another interesting thing is I noticed that Sam Houston's expense overall is a lot less than SFA's, which is interesting because you would think it would be more considering Sam is a bigger school, but also our coaches' compensation is higher, um, as well as our facilities and equipment. Game expenses, SFA's is a lot higher than Sam Houston's. Actually, it's about 2 times the size, and it's just kind of interesting to see those comparisons because also I enjoy seeing that it says support and admin compensation with severance because we all know what happens with athletics, and so that's the aid seems to be about the same, but everything else is pretty comparable. It's just interesting that Sam somehow is spending $4.5 million less. Um, Another thing that I'm finding interesting is the media rights. Sam's is about 3 times the size of SFA's, and that probably has to do with the fact that they are a larger campus. If I had to make a guess, but even so, still looking at this, the biggest difference is the fact that SFA does not have student fees allocated towards athletics, which is again something that I know they were fighting with when I was in college back in 2009 to 2015, and so it's a lack of understanding on the students' part. And to be fair, I think the SFA could do a little bit better explaining when they are trying. SGA, for example, is trying to get this vote through for the student fee to help allocate to athletics. It's not that it's increasing, it's just changing route, and it's going to go partially to athletics, not necessarily just to wherever it's designated right now. But you're seeing where that institutional support from SFA, like athletics, is 83% is funded by institutional slash government support, which makes you wonder, Sam, half of it is by student fees. So it makes you wonder if we were able as a campus to get this student fee through and pass through student government, then what could that other institutional, government support do for our students? And it's not taking more money out of a student's pocket. It's just changing the route in which it's, going within the college system. And, you know, it's just, I'm thinking of all the different programming that could happen, especially like support services if that funding is freed up from athletics, and if it was like truly understood to students what their student fee funding is going towards. And also, sorry, I'm petting my dog. She's being very whiny tonight. So that's just, for me, that's an interesting take. Ticket sales obviously doesn't make up a ton because neither of them are, really big powerhouse schools, and so media rights aren't as big of a deal. And yeah, they have donors and there's licensing, but it's nothing like you see at your really big, your really big flagship schools like UT, A&M, all that fun stuff. And then speaking to like the student fees versus everything else, Sam Houston, their institutional support and government support is only $4.26 million, which is 21%. So it's like, it is so much lower. It's literally like 4 times lower than SFA's, and it's simply because they have that same allocation, or they have that allocation of their student fees that SFA has been trying to have for a really long time. But again, it's just a lack of understanding on the voters and students' parts, and I think maybe it's more of a communication issue and trying to explain, like, hey, it's not this, it's this. So I just find all of this really interesting. I didn't even know this website existed, to be fair. What I would really like to know, though, is what is other revenue? Because Sam has a lot of other revenue. It's 16%. It's $3.22 million, while SFA only has 2%, and it's less than $500,000. So, I mean, what other revenue could there be besides the ticket sales, the guarantees, the donor, like, what is other? It makes you wonder, because I feel like most everything is covered in here. But, call me crazy. I may just be missing something. But yeah, this was kind of eye-opening to look at, especially the breakdown of like where it's coming from and also where it's going. But, looking at athletics student aid, we spend about the same when it comes to that. It just seems that we're spending way more on game expenses, and also, I'm trying to, there's a big discrepancy, and a lot of it I think is from like facilities, game expenses, also, the admin severance. So this is just really cool that this exists, because I do feel like there's a lot of lack of transparency when it comes to athletics in like bigger schools. And so if students knew that this was like a resource, maybe they could do a little bit more research and understand the breakdown of athletics, the athletic fees, all that jazz. It's just, again, interesting, and I really enjoyed doing the research on this.